What's up, G-Macers? Welcome to episode 104, the fourth installment of Talkin G-MAC in season 1. Of course, I'm your host, Katie Gilhooly, and before we get into all the headlines, I do want to remind you all of something. You can watch Talkin G-MAC and all Great Midwest home games on the Great Midwest Digital Network, but you can do it on your smart TV. And if you didn't know that, I'm so excited to tell you because it makes watching not only the Talkin G-MAC podcast, but all Great Midwest Digital Network events so easy. So all you have to do is head on over to your smart TV, whatever brand it may be, type Great Midwest Digital Network into your search bar and download the app from the App Store, and voila, that's all you need to do. Everything is completely free. You can watch it all right there from your TV. No having to plug your HDMI cable into your television from your laptop or anything like that. You can do it right there from your smart TV. So if you haven't done that, be sure to check it out. There's also some instructions on greatmidwestsports.com if you do get stuck. But we have another great lineup for you guys this week, who will be talking to Ashland head women's soccer coach Cayleb Paulino later on about his team's climb to the top of the polls, as well as their wonderful start to the season. And then we'll ultimately be killing two birds with one stone with our next guest, another Ashland guy, Ashland's Trent Maddox. He was named to the AFCA All-State Good Works team, so we'll be talking to him about that. Trent also serves as the Great Midwest Student Athlete Advisory Committee chair or president, and he was newly elected back in July. So we'll be talking to him about his vision for that and everything that he's got planned for G-MAC SAC as well. But before we get into all of that, we'll start the show the way that we started every week, and that's with some headlines. So we start on the gridiron. Coming out of the AFCA Division II coaches poll, the Tiffin Dragons are still receiving votes, while the Ashland Eagles are back in the poll receiving votes this week. Those two will square off on the gridiron this Saturday in Tiffin, along with the rest of the conference, who heads into week 2 of the football conference slate. So you won't want to miss that. That should be a pretty good game over there in Tiffin. So be sure to tune into the Great Midwest Digital Network. You can watch all those games right there from your smart TV. On the pitch, the Ashland women's soccer team, as I mentioned, remains the number 1 team in the country this week as they continue into conference play. Findlay and Hillsdale remain the only 2 G-MAC schools receiving votes in the AVCA volleyball coaches poll. We're just about a month out from the Midwest region crossover volleyball tournament. We're excited for that, and we'll be having a couple of volleyball coaches on as we get into some later episodes. So stay tuned for that if you are a volleyball parent or fan. And in the cross-country polls, the Cedarville men fall 2 spots to number 26 this week, but the Walshmen move up and back into the poll to 29. And on that same note, Findlay's Noah Fisher is the second G-MAC men's cross-country runner this season to be named the National Athlete of the Week. Fisher picks up the award after winning the All-Ohio Intercollegiate Challenge hosted by Cedarville last week. The senior finished the 8K in 24 minutes, 14.3 seconds, a lot faster than I could do it. This is the first national cross-country award in Findlay program history. And staying with cross-country, on the women's side, the Cedarville women are up 3 spots in the latest cross-country poll to number 11, just outside the top 10 by about 6 votes. And you can find these headlines and so much more on our social media accounts. So make sure you're giving us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all of that at Great Midwest AC. You can also find the latest Athlete of the Week winners on our website right now as well. You can head on over to greatmidwestsports.com.
In life, things aren't scripted.
If you're an athlete, we need people like you and translate those skills to officiating.
You can get a lot out of it.
It happens in every town, in every game.
We never have a perfect game, but the rewards always outweigh the negativities.
Well, we're joined now by head women's soccer coach at Ashland University, Cayleb Paulino. Coach, thanks so much for taking some time to talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Well, what a great start to the season for your program. Just named the number one team in the country by the Women's Soccer Coaches Poll. What has been working so far for this team to get you guys to this point so early on in the season?
Yeah, I think, we tested the group with 4 very difficult games to start the year. And I think people have taken notice to the strength of our schedule to start the year. And, fortunately for us, we were able to go 4-0. So that always speaks volumes in a very difficult first 4 games. So, I think for us, like our group was prepared. I think that was something that, last year we didn't have as much success in the first 4 games. And we're starting to continue to learn as a group. So I think, culturally the group is up for it, ready to go, and they did a really good job managing the first 4 games.
Well, we talk about those first 4 games. That's a win over number 8 Grand Valley State, a win over Rollins, a win over a Saginaw Valley State team, and then recently the win over number 4 Ferris. When you're talking about scheduling, I think there's always debate as to what direction you go. What was the thought process behind having those 4 really good games to start the year for this squad?
Yeah, I mean, we want to have some preparation early about with teams that play in the NCAA tournament. I think for us, it helps us identify things that we need to get better at early, and in preparation for a competitive GMAC conference. I think we have to challenge ourselves and figure out what we don't do well in order to find some long-term success. So, the first 4 games, you're looking at a national champion, a team that's made the Final Four, Sweet 16s, Elite Eight. So, we put ourselves in a position to be challenged, and I think the group handled it really well. So I think that's great preparation for us heading into GMAC play.
How do you manage this team with that target that's now likely on their back by all those teams? You keep winning, you likely stay in that number 1 spot. It's a great place to be when you're on top, but it's also something that as a coach, I feel like sometimes you have to manage those expectations. What do those conversations look like with your team?
Yeah, I don't think the standard here is much different, or the expectation. We've won the conference 2 years in a row at some point, whether it be the regular season or the conference championships. You're always going to get somebody's best game, right? Like, I think that's the thing that we stress with the group is, no matter what, everybody's going to be up for Ashland and you're going to get their best. It's our job and our responsibility to make sure that we maintain a certain standard as far as performance for us. And, again, I think you can't get caught up in what's it going to look like 3 or 4 weeks from now, because I think then it becomes overwhelming. And I think for us, we got to manage what we can manage. And, again, like the goal this week is to go 1-0. Every other week is to go 2-0. So if you string enough of those together, then at the end of the year, you're going to put yourself in a really good position.
Well, you talked a little bit about this start to the year, kind of catapulting the team into GMAC play. What can you use, and what have you learned from these first few games about your team? We talk about a lot of what's gone right, and those are 4 wins, but there's always that room to learn, right? What are some of those things that you're talking about with your team as far as that maybe you need to keep going into GMAC play, because there's always that opportunity to be a regular season and a tournament champ at the end of the year?
Yeah, I think one thing that we embraced early in the year is making the most of your opportunity. I think we're one of the programs that play the most players in the country. So we talk about opportunity. Against Ferris State, we played 26 players. That probably doesn't happen everywhere. And you got to make the most of your moment and embrace your role. And I think that's one thing that our group has done a really good job of, is whether you're a 90-minute player off the bench, maybe somebody that doesn't get on the field, like, you got to embrace your role and how you can help us win games. And I think the group has done a really good job of understanding that everything that they do, whether it be in training and then competing or in a game or being a great teammate, those things are helping us, get over the hump and continue to be successful.
Well, you talk about that success that you've had in these last couple of years in the GMAC. What are some of the things that you tell your team coming into GMAC play to keep that standard?
Yeah, I think, our aspirations are to be at the national stage. And, one thing that we met with the group with yesterday is, speaking things into an existence, right? So we talked about, hey, we want to be at the national stage, compete for national championship, and be in that conversation. And now we're starting to really believe and buy into that stuff. And I don't think if you're not talking about it and you get to that position, it's not going to always happen, right? And I think if that's kind of the expectation for us, is we're continually talking about being a NCAA type program, making it far into the NCAA tournament. When you get there and you have that pressure, it's something that you've been talking about since day one, and you can be able to cope and manage with it. So I think for us, like, the group has done really, really well. I think there's always going to be difficult moments. You got to figure out, how you can lean on the person next to you to get through it. But the first 4 games we've done really, really well. But the GMAC's completely different. I think it's very, very competitive this year, top to bottom, and some teams have definitely stepped up and made things a lot more competitive in our conference, which is great to see. So I think we're going to be challenged in different ways, and we're just going to have to figure out as a group, how we can rely on each other to get through it.
As a team that plays so many players, I have to assume that leadership is still a really important part of that mathematical equation that makes a good team a good team. Who are some of those leaders on this team for the Eagles, and who do you kind of rely on to help kind of relay that message that you're sending to your team?
Yeah, I think, for us, we have a leadership council, which essentially consists of identifying leaders in each class. Because I think at times, you have to have a relationship between the players and the staff to kind of continue the message. And if you have someone in a first year role that's a leader and, kind of a leader in training per se, they might be more comfortable as first year kids to talk to that player rather than a first year kid to talk to a senior. So our job is to relay our message to the leadership council, and then they take it upon themselves to answer questions and help relay the message from the staff to the players. But, we have a couple of big time seniors, and Maddie Grabowski, that was defender of the year, almost first team next to Riley last year. We lost her for the year, due to injury, but she's taken it upon herself to be an extension of the staff and being a true leader for us. And I think, the McKinley Mendenhalls of the world that are all conference performers, Danny Hicks, those kids have taken upon themselves to make this their program and have expectations for each other and accountability. So I think there's a great group of leaders, the Merrick Mahaliks, the Sabrina of the groups. Not all of them are healthy enough to play right now, but they're still contributing and being impactful for our program.
Well, before I let you go, I want to ask you one last thing. You're on top right now. You're the number 1 team in the country. What's the one key to be staying successful for the Ashland Eagles?
Yeah, I think we got to want more from each other, right? Like, I think it's easy to get to here, but it's also easy to be satisfied. And I think the one thing that we keep continuing to harp on is the belief that we're supposed to be here, the belief in each other that this is what we need as the community in this locker room to help us be successful. So, I think those are things that we're going to keep challenging the group is, how can we continue to get better? I don't want us to be satisfied. It's great that we're here, but we want to try to stay in this ranking, in this spot, as long as humanly possible. So, it starts with going 1-0 this week, and then, reevaluating where we need to be at the following week, and traveling to Tennessee and doing all those kinds of things. So, I'm really happy with the group. It's the first time in program history. It's a great representation of our program and the conference as well. So, I think that's also a part of it, as well as, in our region, representing the GMAC to the highest level and making sure, we keep that standard going.
Well, we appreciate your time today, head coach Ashland women's soccer, Cayleb Paulino. Best of luck this week. Best of luck the rest of the way. And we'll be seeing you in a couple months at the GMAC tournament.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Katie.
I pledge.
I
I am an NCAA student athlete.
And I pledge to be a champion of unity
On my team, on my campus, and in my community.
I pledge to embrace differences and strive for inclusion and collaboration.
I pledge to stand against racism, hate, and discrimination.
I pledge to strive for love, care, and forgiveness.
I pledge to stand against silence, deceit, and obscurity.
I pledge to strive for dialogue, truth, and understanding.
I pledge to stand against fear and doubt.
I pledge to strive for trust and belief in one another.
I pledge to stand against complacency and stagnancy.
I pledge to strive for change and growth.
I commit to supporting my fellow student athletes in all circumstances that impact them.
I commit to both choosing unity personally and encouraging it for all.
I pledge these things because we are stronger together.
United as one.
All right. Well, we're very happy to be joined now by Ashland Jr. Trent Maddox, who we have on for a multitude of facets today. Trent is our newly elected Great Midwest Student Athlete Advisory Committee Chair. But Trent also had a little bit of good news brought to him this week, and Trent was named to the Good Works team. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into some SAC stuff, and then we'll play a little game with you later on. But Trent, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Katie.
Well, I want to ask you first about the All-State Good Works team, something that it has kind of become common in the Ashland football realm. For those who don't know, this is something that's given to football players across all divisions, and Trent was one of those 22 named to that team. So, what was it like getting that news and kind of following in the footsteps of some former guys on the Eagles football team?
Yeah, when I received the news just in July, I was super honored to even be nominated for it, and then ultimately, there's a lot of guys who are deserving of being named to the team. There's like 160 guys, I think, who are nominated, and ultimately 22 are on the team. And I was just thankful, I think is the best way that I could describe the way that I felt when I received the call that I ultimately made the team. Just super thankful and honored and humbled and blessed to be able to be a part of it, because ultimately, I said in something we did in Ashland, it is not me, but what the Lord has done in my life, and super honored and blessed to just experience that. Austin Phillips was named to the team a couple of years ago, and then Austin Brenner was named last year, and two of those guys have been just mentors in my life. So to follow in their footsteps is super cool and super honoring. So just thankful that I get to serve, and thankful that I get to be a part of that, and that the Lord has blessed that.
Well, I wanted to ask you what kind of impact that maybe some of those guys like Austin Phillips and Austin Brenner may have had on you, being in the quarterback room with Austin and kind of getting to know him over the last 2 years. What kind of example does some of those guys set for you that maybe you're going to be able to turn around and set for other and future Eagles?
Yeah, Austin and Austin, those two guys are actually best friends, and I think it's really funny that they have the same first name all the time, so we got to get nicknames for them. But yeah, they are two of the most selfless people I've ever met in my life. Two guys that just love to serve, whether it's on the football field, in the community, just in our friendship. I felt extremely loved and cared for every time I talked with those guys. Even when it's about dumb things, they're awesome. They're awesome friends all around, and to just know them and to learn from them ultimately is really cool. They are guys who both love Jesus a ton, and it is super easy to learn from them because they just have great experiences to share about what the Lord has taught them, and ultimately how we go through hardships and how we endure suffering, but also good things as well. And I think learning from them and their successes has been really cool as well, to just see the way that they have handled themselves. So I'm super blessed to know those guys and to be able to learn from them as well.
Well, when we think of student athletes, I think a lot of times the first thing that comes to everyone's mind is what's happening to them on the football field, the basketball court, whatever sport in which they're playing. I think this award speaks a lot to what you're doing off the football field. Why is that so important to you as Trent Maddox to make an impact off the football field?
Yeah, ultimately football ends. Ultimately we are done with football. I'm in my junior year. I'm blessed to have another year, so I get to do this again, which is going to be super fun. But next year, my football career will end. But this game of football, although it has a lot of great things to it, we learn a lot of great lessons. We have a lot of fun in doing it. We learn how to be a great teammate, a great friend, a great competitor. Football is not who we are, is just what we get to do, and I think ultimately what I've learned through my time in football is that the Lord has blessed me with talents to be on a football team, like the Ashland University football team, but ultimately I serve a higher purpose, right? And it is so cool just to be given those opportunities. Because of football, I get to be on this team, right? Because of football, I get to serve the GMAC as the GMAC chair. And because of football, I get to be a part of FCA, and I get to serve in my community. And so ultimately, these things are going to last a lifetime, and these friendships are going to last a lifetime. And the impact that we make is going to last a while. And so I think it's just super cool that football is just the avenue that the Lord has used in my life. And it's super awesome to just be a part of it and just be along for the ride.
Well, you mentioned some of those things that you've gotten to do outside of campus, some of the things that you're involved in. I mentioned SAC, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the other things that you're doing in the Ashland community and have done throughout high school and all of that. Some of the stuff that people talk about, obviously very involved in your church there at Ashland, as a youth group leader. You've been involved in Tim Tebow night. I've heard some of those stories, mission trips. What are some of those things, and what are some of the impacts some of those experiences have had on you as a person?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to the football is not who we are, but what we get to do thing. In high school, I was given the opportunity to start a football camp for students in the area with special needs that don't usually get the opportunity to participate in football camps. I looked around, and we have the middle school camp, we have the youth camp, and there was never students with intellectual or physical disabilities at those camps. And we started this camp, and what it made me realize is how grateful and thankful that I am that I even get to go to practice, that I even get to go to play football. And that was super awesome. And they still run that, which is super cool. And then just to know the community members, I go to church on Sundays, and they're like always wanting to talk about the football game and how we're doing and all that kind of stuff, and just to receive that support from them is super sweet because, we just get to have a personal relationship with the community members as well. To know the kids when we go in to read with them at a local elementary school, they think you're a superstar, and we're not. We're just people as well. But we get to be that person that just brightens their day up a little bit. And we were signing autographs on a piece of sheet paper, and like, was it really autographs? It was just scribble, they just thought it was awesome. So it's been really cool to be able to do that.
Well, you mentioned starting that camp in high school. You are an intervention specialist major. Where did that passion come from to want to serve students with those disabilities like you spoke about?
Yeah, my dad was a special education major as well. And my mom is a sixth grade math teacher. And so I think when I can look back at my life, they play a big impact in that. Not because I'm just doing this because my parents did that, but they came home and talked about how much they loved their job. They came home and talked about how much joy they had in teaching these kids and having the relationships with these kids. I got to grow up in a school, when I was a kid growing up, my dad was a principal. So I'd go to his school and see all the kids, and I thought it was the coolest thing of all time. So I think from a young age, seeing that was a huge factor in why I wanted to be a special education major, because my parents and the way that they talked about the job, and the way that they talked about how much fun it was and how fulfilling it was, and how much joy that they got in teaching kids. So.
Well, we're definitely always happy to have you when we have our summer SAC meeting, because I think the kids always love having that competition with Trent. For those who don't know, every summer the Great Midwest has a Student Athlete Advisory Committee Summit in Columbus over the last couple of years. And Trent's been there the last few years, and we've always laughed about the way that he's interacted with those folks. I want to talk to you about your involvement in SAC. We've talked about some of the stuff you've done outside of it. Recently this summer, Trent was voted our chair, so he's essentially the president of the Great Midwest SAC. Trent, what and how important has it been to you to be involved not only in Ashland's SAC but in the conference SAC as well?
Yeah, it's been super important. I think I get to see a side of athletics that you don't necessarily get to see when you're an athlete, and you get to experience things when it comes to legislation and talking about rule changes and community service efforts and Make-A-Wish efforts as well. Just that shows that us as athletes are more than athletes, and I think it's been really cool to be able to serve in those roles. And I'm super thankful for just the people that have, been good to me in that, like Leslie and Katie and Wiley and everybody also at the conference level. It's been really cool to just be able to experience those things, because ultimately football is going to end, school's going to end, and we're going to go into the real life workforce, right? And just to have those leadership experiences and knowing, hey, like this is what they did at the conference level, and this is what it looked like to run a conference level meeting and that kind of stuff. I think those opportunities are few and far between. You're not going to get those very often. And so ultimately I'm thankful for that. Just what I've been able to learn and how I've been able to grow in that because of the opportunities that I've been provided. So,
well, one of the things that we do with Trent and some of the others that come to the summer meeting is that we take them to play games and activities through a summer program, through a partnership that we've built over the last couple of years with Columbus Park and Rec. Trent, I talked about how fun it is to watch you interact with those kids, but walk our listeners through what it's like to interact with kids who really are introduced to you guys as college athletes. You mentioned it earlier, they kind of get that starstruck superstar feeling, but what is it like to be with other Great Midwest athletes, getting to give back to a community that you actually grew up in, right, as a Columbus native?
Exactly. It is cool. It's not too far away from my house, which is awesome. And I think when we go, we are reminded of the opportunities that we have as student athletes. And those kids say, I want to be a college athlete someday. I want to go play college basketball or college football or college soccer or something. All of those, or the majority of those kids want to go be a college athlete, and to be that role model for them is super cool. And to also be the person that says, hey, you can do that. You can go be a college athlete. You can do that is so cool. And also to just compete with them, compete against them, to have fun with them. All these kids love running around and playing this crazy tag game that we play. And they think it's so awesome when they get you out, because quite honestly, they're in probably better shape than we are. So we're running around, getting on the floor and stuff, and they're just running circles around us. And so it's so cool to, just be in their element, and to just play games with them. And, to see the smile on their face when they throw a dodgeball at you and you're out, is a lot of fun. So I think that opportunity and that partnership has been so sweet. And just listening to other student athletes when we leave that meeting, a lot of their takeaways is, man, that partnership that we have is so awesome. And those relationships that we get to build is so awesome, because we see a lot of the same kids back every single year. And so that time that we get to spend with those kids is amazing.
Well, I've mentioned a couple of times that you were newly elected into the Great Midwest SAC chair position. Trent served as vice chair under our former president, and so he's not new to conference SAC. But I don't know that after our meeting in July, we will meet with our SAC here in a week or so. But after being elected into that position, and having the opportunity to serve the conference SAC over the next few years as president, what are some of the things, and it doesn't have to be specific, but what are some of the things that you hope that maybe continues with a conference SAC, or that you hope to maybe implement, or to make sure that you guys continue to have the impact that you've had on the conference and its student athletes?
Yeah, I'm super blessed to be able to come behind a guy like Wiley. He did a really, really good job as the president. He worked really hard and was super selfless in his role. And so I have been able to learn a lot from him. And I keep in touch with him too. I'm trying to figure out what to do. So I keep asking him questions and texting him things, and just called him the other day. So super thankful for him. And I think something that I'm super passionate about is student athlete involvement on campus. How can we allow student athletes to be more involved in their campus and in their community? How can we promote going to support other sporting events and going to serve in their community and to do those things? So I'm working on trying to better that at the conference level. I think we're at a good spot right now, but how can we encourage one another? It's like, hey, this is what we're doing, and maybe this will work for you. Just garnering that fellowship amongst institutions. So that's something that I'm super passionate about, and just supporting one another.
Well, Trent, we're really excited to see what you do as the Great Midwest SAC Chair, and we're really excited to have you represent us on the AFCA Good Works team. But before I let you go, we're going to get to maybe know Trent Maddox a little bit better. We're going to play some rapid fire with him. So I'll ask you a few questions. First thing that comes to mind, and we'll see where it goes from here. All right?
Okay.
We'll start with some easy ones. All right, you ready? Texting or talking?
Talking.
Favorite day of the week?
Sunday.
Favorite city in the United States besides the one that you live in or from?
Can I say Ashland?
Sure. Since you're from Columbus, I'll let you say Ashland.
Columbus is the easy answer.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how good of a driver are you?
7.6.
Okay. Invisibility or a super strength?
Invisibility.
Interesting. Dawn or dusk?
Dusk.
If you could travel back in time, about what period of time would you want to visit?
Jesus' life.
Favorite junk food?
Ooh. Anything chocolate peanut butter, like Reese's or anything like that. Chocolate peanut butter combinations is elite.
Good answer. Did you have, or do you remember, like a favorite childhood TV show that you always watched?
Phineas and Ferb.
Do you have a favorite TV show now?
Not necessarily. I'm not a big TV show guy. I just can't sit still and watch it. So I watch the Full Swing documentary that they just did on the PGA, and then Quarterback, obviously. It's probably obvious that I watched that. And so those are things like more documentary type things. The untold stuff that Netflix is doing has been really good. So more sports documentaries type stuff.
Good. That's me too. I actually just finished. I finally got to watch Quarterback. I had been holding off on that one, and it was good. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate chip cookie dough.
Good. Favorite number?
5.
Good answer. Is double dipping at a party ever acceptable?
Never. I think that's easy. I mean, if you say yes, then
what if you
yes.
What if you turn the chip or something, and then it's not
you heard me. The other thing is you put your finger on the other side of the chip, so then your dirty hands are now in the. Yeah.
I'm not saying I agree with it. That's just some people's rationale to double dipping.
That's bad.
Dog or cat person? Or neither, I guess.
The easiest answer of my life, dog.
Do you have a dog?
Yes, Rocky.
What is Rocky?
Rocky is he's a yellow lab technically, but he's really white. And he's kind of fat, and I love him.
All right, last question. Favorite Ashland moment? It doesn't have to be athletics related. It can be any moment so far.
Dang. Are you going to be able to cut this?
Am I going to need to cut it?
Because I have to think.
You can think.
Favorite Ashland moment. There's a lot.
Favorite.
There's a lot of things.
What's your favorite Ashland football moment?
Favorite Ashland football moment's probably beating Notre Dame in the playoffs last year. That was a lot of fun. Just with the rematch, and just kind of with the rivalry that started with them and playing them again. We played them in week 1 and then beat them again in the week 1 of the playoffs. That was really cool to be able to be a part of that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, Trent, we appreciate your time today. I got to know a little bit more about you. We'll make sure that you have Reese's and gummy worms in front of you at our next meeting. But we do appreciate your time, and congratulations on all your success. And we appreciate the way that you've represented the Great Midwest over the last 3 years, and we know that you'll continue to do great things.
Awesome. Thank you so much.